Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, welcome to another week, another episode of the Medicine Ball Podcast. You could have chosen to spend your time anywhere. You rock with me today. Thank you. I never take that lightly. Before we get into it, let my beat drop. Yes, that's right. Welcome to Medicine Ball with your boy L.O.I.S. to be exact. And if you ain't in shape, at least your brain should be. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Medicine Ball Podcast, where we focus on giving your brain a six-pack by exercising your mind. Now, exercising your mind means that you actively think about and deal with all situations by first seeking to do anything other than what you are normally programmed and or comfortable in doing. Now, if you're someone who struggles and wants to get better at thinking about things beforehand, as opposed to reacting in ways that require less effort, well, just like anything you want to get better at, it does require training, practice, and work. Now, I'm well aware that thinking about things beforehand as opposed to responding off instinct does require effort. And who doesn't prefer things that are easy? Well, the first step, my friends, can be very easy, and that's to begin to look at all things from an unbiased point of view, which in itself will increase your curiosity in life. Now, exercising your mind won't give you all the answers. You will, however, begin to look at things with more peace, understanding, and patience, while simultaneously equipping yourself with more tools and strategies to help you effectively deal with this thing called life. Now, before we go any further, I'm no doctor, no psychiatrist, no psychologist. I have, however, been diagnosed with bipolar disorder level 1 for 16 years. And to be honest, I got to a point in my life where I was looking at the person I was becoming versus the person I wanted to be. And that, among other things, required me to look at my mental health responsibly. So whether or not you're diagnosed or know someone who's diagnosed or have symptoms or just want to know more about it, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're one of the many people who could just use some tips, tricks, and different ideas to help you get through day-to-day life. Pull up a seat, kick up your feet. This is your family, man. Welcome home, no judgment zone. This week's episode, it's been a while, man. Season 4, episode 1, Lois. Let's go. Welcome back. I have missed y'all. I have missed being in front of this microphone, as it is therapy for me as much as it is therapy for you guys. I've been gone for a while, a little longer than expected. And for those of you who are new, unless you're following me on my social medias, Medicine Ball LS3, you have no idea what the holdup has been or what I'm even talking about. So, with no further ado, I'm trying to stay focused and locked in. This is going to be an extended episode, but I want to get into it, talk about it. I had a lot of adversity. I had a lot of positivity. And with all of that, I think that the content for season 4 is going to be some of the best content ever. So let's hop into it. Season 4, episode 1, Lois. Now, I realize, shouts out to you guys, the loyal, and now I'm sure I'm going to have new listeners, that some people are brand spanking new. I don't know if you guys remember, but I had maybe a 7,000 follower goal, or it might have been less than that, but long story short, I'm almost at about 8,000 followers on Instagram. Shout out to you guys. I am overwhelmed sometimes with the messages, the interaction. It's all a blessing. I accept it humbly. I don't even really like social media like I used to, but it's, I see the positivity that I'm able to do through it. So shouts out to y'all. So with all that said, so let's start. So season 3, and I'm realizing this, a lot of my episode titles and my episode themes, not all of them, but a lot of them are subconsciously a reflection of things that I'm going through in my life. So, it's dope because it allows me to be transparent with you guys. But as you guys know, I had gone through an experience where I got a promotion into management. And, I've mentioned I've been a manager before, but it's in a virtual environment. If you've managed like in a non-virtual environment and manage in a virtual environment, is night and day, because you might be dealing with somebody who's not in the same state as you know what I'm saying, let alone the same location, the state. So I got plenty of stories on that, man. We'll get into all of that. But season 3 had a lot of tones of leadership, sacrifice, humbleness, putting it all on your shoulders. And like as I got towards the end of it, I realized that my spirituality started coming into it more and more and more. And God works how he works. But it's just like, even with what I went through the whole season 3, in retrospect, it was almost like that joint was for me to prepare me what came next. I kid you guys not. So let's talk about a few positives. So like I said, I got the promotion within Medicine Ball. A lot of engagement, a lot of opportunities, the video opportunity, which is still there. I'll elaborate more on that. Merchandising had taken off and had outgrown the person that I was working with, and still has. The engagement on apps, it's just crazy. I have and am still in situations. I can mention the app now. It's the Wisdom app, where it's like a more organized clubhouse. I was rocking with club, but I've seen what that's turned into, and I don't want no parts of that. But and just many of things. On top of that, with the me getting my voice out there, I have voiceover opportunities. From the music standpoint, some people would just listen to my little cuts in my shows just for the music, like rappers. And so, if you rock with me, you already know. But if you're new, like, production of music is one of the talents I've been given, but I was given opportunities with that. I did sign an NDA. I am producing an album for someone on a major label. I can't really give too much about that. I was able to just get the spirituality going up more, and really have and continue through everything to be dedicated with that. The tithing, the finances, I was able to really pay off. Like, and I'm saying this humbly, right? Like, if you follow me online, y'all know I don't even talk about this, but like, I was able to pay off like 40% of the debt on my personal credit in like 3 months, while simultaneously like building the credit of the company Medicine Ball in that time. A relationship that I'm now in that started towards the end of August, which has been a beautiful journey. We're still together. It's just a lot of positives. Mamba's been with me even longer, a lot more discipline, a lot more patience, and subconsciously, I was feeling myself a little bit. I could tell that my perception and the way that I carried myself was becoming more righteous and more noble, not in an arrogant way, but I was aware of it, right? Now, with that being said, let's just go ahead and get into some of the things that didn't work, right? So, as I said at the beginning, it's been a long time since I've put out an episode. And even if you follow me on social media, the engagement has been very, very spotty. So I remember the July episode, 4th of July episode. And this is being transparent, as you can see. I haven't even looked at it. And it was a struggle even to do this. But we'll get into it. I did the 4th of July episode, and due to the pandemic, just like everybody else, I was seeing and experiencing a lot of death, but I feel like with the pandemic, it was just closer. So I had a very close aunt die earlier. Then after that, in around March or April, rest in peace, Kia, one of the cousins from my generation, passed at about 24 or 25. 2 or 3 months later, her mother, who was above my generation, but was right there, and I remember her pass from COVID, and that was kind of a sign, right? So within Medicine Ball, the website is the exact same. And I'll get into why, but I and that's something I know I need to address, but I have an account now. I have money saved up dedicated just to Medicine Ball. God's blessed me that way, so I'm probably just going to have to pay somebody. The videography, without putting too much information out there, he's my bro, who was really the guy who I'm still working with on it, had something happen with his home. And I'm not putting his name out there so I can say it. Those who are close enough to know probably know anyway, but like, his house burnt down. His house burned down. The guy who was, so it's just like, I was already struggling with trying to take on video editing with everything else, but that happened. I was in a relationship, right? And then around the end of September, I remember it vividly, I started getting smoked at work. It was a situation where I was getting newer people to the team, but and I'm learning, just some things had snuck up on me with some numbers, and it was like hot in the kitchen, like, and if anybody who works with me listens to this, they're gonna be like, oh, he wasn't playing. It was hot in the kitchen, like pressure, like your job on the line. Within a week, I need to see a change type pressure, like meeting with my boss every day at the beginning and end of the day and sending an email report on numbers type pressure. And right at that time, man, the episode's entitled Lois. God's gonna get me through this, y'all. My grandmother I talked about her in all my episodes. She was still there. And we were working on this darn phone situation. And I had bought her device for her. And y'all got to realize this probably was going to make the episode long because it's a healing process for me. But like I had spent like $80 on a device for that would automatically hang up the phone. And I'm a person who's very, very hard on myself. So so that's what would happen with medicine ball. I outgrew my the guy who was doing my shirt. So it was a lot of failure, but my grandmother's my heart, man. Just because the simple fact that I would call her every day, it's just like she was darn near my best friend. I told stories everywhere about the prune juice, the phone. So anyway, I had bought this phone box, and I don't know what was going on, but for some reason I was kind of frustrated at my mom and my brother and even my aunt to a degree. And it really probably wasn't justified. It was probably just on me because I wanted to spend more time with my grandmother, bro. Like, and to be honest with y'all, I was spending plenty of time with her. But it would just be those like I didn't like to tell her no. So it's like I would at least go see my grandmother. I would talk to her every day, but I was going to see her 2-3 times a week. Right. But I'm just a logical guy. She was within a decent distance. So in my back of my head, and this is just probably me and guilt on my end, I was like, man, I should be able to see her every day or something like that. All of this was going on while, what was going on at work. And the phone was a big deal because we couldn't get in touch with her. And I just remember getting a call that she fell and hit her head. Now I reached out to my aunt and I saw the pictures. And if you have an elderly person that you deal with, who's fallen, this is probably not going to be odd or a shock to you, but it's just like, it looked like she had been in a fight. It looked like she had been in a fight. So the timing with that was very, very off. And I had the relationship as well. So it was a lot of things taking time, but the timing of that was off because I was already feeling some type of way about the phone situation, and I felt more people than just myself could help. She ended up going to the hospital and needed a specialist, so she was flown an hour away. Now, mind y'all, this is on top of like just medicine ball stuff. My work, I'm in the middle of get your numbers up day to day with new people, and this is going on. Right now, just like I said, I feel like the whole talk about leadership and strength and even my spirituality, God works in such mysterious ways because I used to think in the beautiful times of my grandmother and she was older, like, man, bro, I'm just glad she's here because if my grandmother died or something like that, foreshadowing, I don't know what I would do. I don't think I could handle it. I think I would fall apart. So it's just like, I needed the spirituality. So even with this, and my girlfriend, she, she's a quiet one, and we'll get into that. We'll save her for some deeper into the season, right? But so she's an hour away, and while I'm dealing with work, oh, here's the kicker, right? I don't even remember if I talked about this on the last season, but like right in the middle of nowhere, my boss is like, "Yo, check this out, yo, we need you to go late." I'm a team player, you know what I'm saying? So I'm getting off at 8:30. And that's really aggravating me because now that time that I had to like talk to my grandmother and shoot over there real quick, she's older. She's asleep by the time I get off. So all of this was compounded with a lot of frustration and anger. And like I said, this is healing because I'm realizing like, yo, this is why you were praying and everything, and it was just hard to get through. So all of this is happening, and I make the trip up there, and now mind you, it just goes super fast here, and I think I'm still in shock, but I'm getting through it. But it's just like I make a trip up there to see her an hour away, right? She's in a room, but she's like talking. She still has energy. I like my grandmother, when she hear my voice, she gets energized. So I think her eyes were still swollen. So I remember her eyes was closed and she just wanted to hold my hand, but she was still like coherent. She was active. And I felt a peace. I was like, all right, she good. She didn't. And it just hurts, bro. She never got to see the woman that I'm dating right now, but she was able to speak to her and she like was like holding her hand. So I was heartbroken. I was torn, but I left, right? So from there, they because man, when I had left her, I I felt comfortable she was gonna recover. My grandmother is like she is the strongest woman to this day I've ever seen. She done made it through like 3, 4 strokes, broken bones at a high age. She ain't never need a walker or nothing, right? So I'm just like, oh, she good, right? So I go back with everything that's going on with work. I'm still like communicating, but not as well as I want to. She's an hour away, and they end up bringing her to a rehab place like a week later. That's still 45 minutes away, but it's still like within closer to I don't know how to explain it. Like it's a long way away, but it's a more familiar area, right? It's not out in the boonies, as they would say. All right, so she's over there. So I get a phone number immediately, and I gets to calling. And so this is like the second or third week in September. And mind you, my birthday is October 7th. I ain't even thinking about it. And the first day I think I called over there, they had to go grab her. Her name is Lois. They were like, Lois, Lois, Lois. And they would be doing that. And I'm on the phone and I'm just like, this ain't right. Something ain't right. And the first time I called over there, she eventually was like, huh? And she was like, your grandson is on this phone. She was like, huh? But she was trying to get to the phone. So I got off the phone and I just broke down, bro. I just started crying, but it just doubled up on determination. Like, yo, I got to get over there and see her, bro. And I'm trying not to spill out because there's so many details in this that I remember, such as my spirituality and like how hard I was really leaning on God, and just like I know He has brought me through so much. And of course, what goes along with you just investing in something, even if you not fully invested, just putting it in your face. I started getting an understanding more of the Bible and like how trials are built to like make you better, to teach you lessons, bro. And it's just like, okay, so anyway, let's keep going. So I think so 2 weeks out from her falling and hitting her head, I make an appointment to go over and see her. And with my spirituality, I'm starting to learn a few songs that I like. And there's a song that's called Promises that they did one day, and it was just real catchy. God of Abraham, God of Covenant. Go check it out, yo. It's a dope song. So I drive up there to the place with my girlfriend again. And I go on, and they're like, yeah, okay, we'll have her come out. And they set me in the room. Now, before I drove out there, I'm sorry, I think I had tried to call one more time, and she couldn't even get to the phone. They couldn't even get her to get to the phone or grab the phone, right? So I get up there like the next day, I believe, and they're like, okay, we'll have somebody come out. And they bring me into some like, looks like a conference room almost, or a cafeteria that they convert or whatever. And they sit me there. And I sit there for about 5-10 minutes, and I'm noticing, oh, this is a little Christian station. And I'm seeing somebody else talk to their, older person. And they're like talking to her loud because she's barely responsive, can't hear. And I was like, dang, that's unfortunate. And I'll never forget, bro. They wheel an older lady out in a wheelchair with her eyes closed, who's like unresponsive, very, very skinny. And I looked and I was like, dad, where's my grandmother? And they wheeled that lady up to my chair, bro. And I looked at her. I was like, this is my grandma. Totally unresponsive at this point. Totally unresponsive at this point. And it's like, I had just seen her a week ago, bro. What happened? So y'all know I'm a thinker, bro. So now I'm thinking like, yeah, they got her geeked up on some medicine. But I know, like, I don't know what movie it was, but they was like, yo, I'm not laid back because I'm scared or anything like that. I'm laid back for y'all. Because if I go off and I just get like irrational, oh yeah, it's going to be some hell to pay. So I'm still able, and we'll talk about this more this season, emotional discipline. Able to be emotional discipline because I'm highly emotional. There's like tears in my eyes. And so the young black lady, she's obviously used to this kind of thing. Right? So they're not saying this is hospice, but in my mind, I'm thinking like, and I don't know nothing about hospice, I'm like, yo, this looking hospice-y to me. Right? So I'm talking to her, and I remember just grabbing her hand, and that song Promises was playing at that exact same time. And even to this day, that's like one of my favorite songs. I can barely make it through the song without shedding a tear, because it just, talks about in the middle of the road, when I don't know where to go, great is your faithfulness to me. You know what I mean? The storms may come. You know what I'm saying? I'll remain steadfast. And I'm listening to this song and I'm holding her hand and I'm trying to talk to her and I'm squeezing her hand. And I'm still thinking in my head because I stayed there for like an hour and she cannot talk. So I'm emotional and I'm carrying my conversation and she's just like not herself. And as humans, this is the medicine ball part, we can justify and rationalize anything we want to make us feel better, which I realize, and it can, and we'll talk about this more in this season, can be used as an advantage. But I'm just telling myself like her medicine's too strong. We're gonna get her medicine taken down and she'll be back to normal. So after about it might not even be an hour, I don't even remember, maybe 2 hours, I leave. Like 5 days later. Now, mind you, I'm dealing with the pressure at work. I get the numbers up, right? I get the numbers up. And that's going to be talked about in this season because I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm confused, I'm lost. But, bro, I got to virtually, where I can't like physically look somebody in the eye and show them I'm seriously, still deal with people who have their own flaws and they have their good days and bad days. But I have to get them in a time of crisis to be their best. So I'm having to talk to people for hours just to like get them to get these numbers up. And I can't be dealing with them on no angry level. So I have to compartmentalize this whole thing with my grandmother in a block. And then when I get off of work, I'll be so exhausted. I'm just trying to make sense of it. God works in mysterious ways, man. So during the week, I have do not disturb hit my phone at a certain time, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if my phone needed an update or whatever, but I got some good sleep the previous night, right? And I wake up like, cause I usually wake up hours before I gotta go in so I can do stuff before. I wake up and I'm not even sure about the days of the duration. It might have been 3 days, but I'm a manager, so like it's a headache sometimes if you don't go about it's a virtual thing the right way. So I have gotten in like the habit of just like not being so quick to jump to look at every text message around certain times. But I can glance over them. I had these previews and I ain't had no missed calls. I didn't see any missed calls, but I saw a text message from like one of my cousins and like I rock with him and everything, but just like to get a text from you at like that time was just like odd. It was off, right? And the text message said, "I'm sorry for your loss." So my first thing was to call my aunt, and this is when I realized my phone needed an update or something, because I could not dial out for nothing. I was dialing everybody. I could not dial out for nothing. So at this point, I jump up. Right? Now, mind you, I still got Mamba going through all of this, and I think I'm going to give him his own episode because, boy, they sense emotions, this dude here. So I jump up. I'm aware of his emotions. I still got to go to work. And at this point, I reset my phone, right? I reset it. I'm being, like, really impatient to the point where I go outside. Like, I got to let this dude out anyway. I go on outside and go up on a hill in my backyard, whatever. And I think what happened was I had tried to send a text to my aunt like, yo, we call him Pac-Man. Pac-Man said, sorry for your loss. What are you talking about? And I had tried, the text would not go through. So at this point, this is like 20, 30 minutes later, I went ahead and called my aunt. And I think that's when I found, it's such a blur to me, bro. It's such a blur to me because I feel like when I found out, like, I definitely let out, like, this, it was probably like a roar or a cry of, like, horror, because my father was just, he was there, and I just remember him being real quiet, and I'm so perceptive, like, humbly, I'm perceptive, but just, like, his whole, even with me going through that, just, like, me having an interaction with him, like, his energy was just odd. He's an odd person, bro, when it comes to him dealing with people, but it was super odd. But I ain't had time for that at the moment, but that was kind of my first sign, and it kind of goes back to what I was just saying. We can ignore everything, but the signs were there, bro. So I let out this cry. I believe that my father was there. He was on the phone with my mom, and it's just like almost a blur. Like I didn't flip out or anything, but I just remember crying and just trying to make sense of it, and having to go into work. And even with that, like, and in retrospect, my boss, I was kind of angry at her because I told her what happened, like via chat. And I guess a part of me was expecting her to be like, oh my God, you need some time off or go home. And she didn't do that. She didn't do that. And, at that time, of course, I was just very angry. I was being entitled. I was being selfish. Like, oh, how dare she not offer me? But in retrospect, she told me, like, yo, sometimes some people need to keep their mind off of it. And in a way, she was right, because me being Mr. Medicine Ball, and especially with my spirituality, I think I was going through a fast at that time too, or just finished one. Like God knew what he was doing. He was building me up to be able to sustain it. But I was like, yo, I was even like slick determined, like, yo, you still got to keep these numbers on point. You still have to compartmentalize this and be a leader. And so like I excelled at work. The numbers showed. The people were telling me, but I had been keeping my team up to date with, my grandmother. Some of them had been with me long enough to know at a certain time I was calling her, but like I broke to them the news. And again, we'll talk about this more this episode. People are really selfish, bro. And they're not selfish that's the bad thing. They're not selfish on purpose. Like really entitled, selfish. I had people saying things like, yo, I know you're on vacation, but after I told them like that type of thing, but it's just like, if I took it personal, right, and only focused on, and this is crazy, L.O.I.S, because it's an acronym, focused on myself, or was only loving on myself, I would just be chumping these folks out. Like, the hell you mean? Like, what? No, that's not what a leader does. That's not what a righteous person does. That's God. It's too many stories, bro. You're facing it every day. How you gonna just go off? You still gotta take a deep breath. So, that's what I do. We'll get into that in another episode. I told you I got a bunch of content. That's what I do. I'm able to get through work. I think I work the next 2 days, and man, we gonna get through it in this episode. Here comes the drama. So without saying too much, man, my mom and my aunt are sisters. They're my grandmother's daughters. They weren't getting along for whatever reason, because realistically, the distance between us, just like myself, my mom, and my aunt, and my grandmother, it's no reason somebody shouldn't have been over there every day and been able to take care of every need. I ain't gonna get into all them details because it's not for me to judge. But long story short, now we have to deal with funeral and all of this stuff, and I mean, not to say it in a negative way, I can only speak on really like myself and my aunt, and occasionally my grandmother's brother, my uncle, who was really like outside of a visit, like making sure my grandmother was straight, especially like at least for this last year. And I'm just keeping it real, right? I got family who listen to it, whatever. I'm just keeping it real. Now, side note, my family real gossipy. So when these other things were happening, I'm cool with the younger generation and some of the older generation. So I don't know who's saying it, but they're saying stuff like, he doesn't even take care of his grandmother. And it's like, I have matured so much mentally like that I don't even entertain stuff like that, because that's obviously a spectator, right? Like, bro, how many denture tabs did you take over this year? How many times you done had to go see what the Sunsweet different types were? How many times you don't have that? You feel what I'm saying? But it's just like, as you mature spiritually and mentally as a leader or a person who's strong-minded, that kind of stuff don't even, like, it's not even worth your mental real estate. So it's just like, once I realize when I'm dealing with my family, I accept them for what they are. I don't really care about nobody's opinion except for the person who's matters, my grandmother. And she knew at what time it was. So I digress. Now we get into this funeral thing, and with me being the oldest grandson, and just like the way that God moves and the things that he places on me, and like people, like even I'm just keeping my father used to always be like, why are you getting involved in all that? Because if not me, then who? Who? Like, I made a dedication, and I talked about this in previous episodes, like, to not try to take on, to be like Mr. Superhero. Like, yo, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. But if something's placed in front of you and you run away from it, at that point, you a coward. And that's just my personal opinion. And I think that each of us knows the difference between volunteering for additional things or taking on additional problems or helping others and clearly something following you around. And that's the difference between me personally, my opinion, a righteous stand-up person and just a straight up and down coward. It's a lot of cowards out here. And that's just the facts, not to be mean. It's a lot of cowards out here. So, now it gets into having to give out the info that she's passed and the arrangements, da 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 da. Now I got to deal with my grandmother's brother, my uncle, who, because of some drama, had and he might not say it, but I know, like, he probably, like, looked at me and my brother some type of way. But I was so active with my grandmother, like, he had no choice but to embrace me and give me my props. Because it was times during this situation where, and the family might not know it, he was hitting me up to go do it. Right? This is a deep story, bro. And I'm trying, like, not to put out too much. My aunt, she got a life too. And it's really deep. Like, my grandmother, I love her, but, like, I'm open to the fact of, like, how parents can be with their children. So she probably need a break. So even if they were like, yo, she's unresponsive, I knew what was going on with her. And it ain't for me to go out and do it, bro. Do something about it or shut the hell up and get out the way is how I was feeling. So anyway, I get contacted, and the thing that was even frustrating me more was the fact that while this was going on, I felt like at work, even in my relationship, we'll talk about it on a later episode, but like even with this, like I got to do all the heavy mental lifting. Because it wasn't until like a weekend that I realized my uncle, bless his heart, he wasn't built to handle the arrangements, but he was trying to. He fumbled them joints multiple times. My family meets up. When we have these, somebody passed, we have these engagements, and it's not until you're in the middle of it that you realize, yo, somebody got to call these folks up. Somebody got to make sure that there's going to be some food. Somebody got to reach out to the people who don't talk to each other. Somebody got to do it. So now I'm right in the middle of that, right? So with all this being said, being the thinker that I am, and I do attribute a lot to God keeping me together, I didn't never have time to even actually grieve outside of a few 30 minutes of tears. I literally did not have time to grieve or even mourn or even digest it. I'm a person who looks up everything. I didn't even have time to even seek to see if my job had anything, which they probably do. Or even look up like some of the stages of grief, which I found out anger is definitely or can be one of them. Or any of that. On top of that, I'm in the middle of a pretty new relationship with somebody who's not a talker by default. And I'm and I'm not even gonna say I'm open to it. I was probably like cranky when she hit me up, and I was like, man, I'm just going through it. I didn't cuss her out or anything, but her response was to back all the way off, which I probably needed for a day or two, but she got ghost for like a week. So now I'm frustrated, and a lot of this is just entitlement. I'm gonna keep it real because I'm just like, how dare you make me go? Lois. That's my grandmother's name. Remember that. So long story short, and yo, I kid y'all not, like in retrospect, it's just bananas. It's nuts, bro. I'll find out like because they have a viewing, a pass, and something, and I kept looking at the verbiage my uncle was sending me in reference to her funeral. My grandmother is getting cremated. I kid y'all not, bro. It is just like my grandmother's getting cremated. So now I'm like, so there's no funeral. There's this time when we're gonna go, see her. The like it's like a funeral ceremony, but no, without the burial part. And she's getting cremated. So now, and yo, shout out to Lisa, man. You know who you are. Like, this is all this season. I'm telling y'all, I got y'all. But she's one of my closest friends since college. Long story short, her mother passed at a young age, and she's seeing me break down. And my girlfriend is in a talk about default, and me and her are just like really friends. Like I contribute a majority of my even conversion and my like spiritual like me and her, the church I go to, that's her church. So anyway, I'm talking about all this, and she's just empathetic, bro. And when we started talking about the remains, and it was like 2 days before, because my uncle was fumbling, she's like, hey, why don't you get a necklace and you could keep some of your grandmother with you? Because I was really distraught. Like, not only, like, you know what I'm saying, and my grandmother gone, like, there's not even a place where I'll be able to just like go and like anything physical, because I know it's all physical, right? It's just a human need. It's just physical. But in my mind, there wasn't a place for that. So I was broken. Even more broken, y'all. Imagine that. I didn't know nothing about that. So she tells me you can get these necklaces. Now this built a whole nother thing. Because my mother and my grandmother wasn't getting along. They were rarely talking, and I'm just going to keep it a buck right now. When they would see each other, even talk with each other, like, I would have to orchestrate that as the grandson with a 3-way call, or going to pick my mother up and take it, just like stuff that I didn't feel like as the grandchild I should have to do, but just did. And a majority, I'm not gonna say a majority of this, all of it is based off of like some type of spiritual belief. If y'all are like, why, I would have done that, it's not gonna make sense if you not, like, if I wasn't locked into the Bible and the devotionals and like taking, and if I would have strayed away from my spirituality the way I did everything else, who knows, right? So now it gets into this thing to where my, uncle don't know what to do with the remains, don't know how to go about it. My mom isn't in good enough to get the remains from him. My aunt doesn't even want them joints, but she's probably the only person who could, and he don't know what to do. So I kid you not, I ordered a necklace. I mentioned it to him, and it really spreads into my family from there. And I gave, Lisa the props, but they're like, yo, that's a good idea. So that sparked them pausing, because the plan was for my grandmother's remains to be spread amongst her brothers at their gravesite. Crazy, man. It's just even talking about it, bro. It was a lot of crying on my part, but I just don't know how my brain in my head didn't just go. I do know, God. But anyway, so that pauses the whole plan on spreading her remains with the necklace thing, and me talking about people keeping them, because it's just crazy, man. While this is going on, their siblings, so my aunts, my grandmother's sisters, is calling my aunt and being like, I'm having dreams that Lois is telling me to go get her from Tukey. And I'm just like, man, what the hell is going on? Mind you, I'm in the pressure cooker at work. I got a reasonably new relationship. At this time, it's like after my birthday, it's like the time I had planned to restart medicine ball back. So at the bare minimum, I'm trying to start posting again. Like, I ain't even looked at the website. None of that joint. Like, I ain't even looked at none of that. I'm keeping it real with y'all. And shout out to those of y'all who continually like checked on me, man. Ariel, she was one of my guests. It's a few of y'all, man. I don't want to leave nobody short. But so now's the remain debacle. So now it's just crazy because I gotta think through this. It's almost like a strategy game of like, how can I go about, like, because I'm always thinking about, because I'm like, y'all like, yo, this is just him talking about this. Nah, you got to think through it. I'm always thinking about my end goal, bruh. I'm trying to get some remains and necklace because I'm thinking about my mom. So I bought her a necklace, and I'm got a plan to fill it, and which I have already done, but this is what I'm thinking at the time. And then my brother, which is a whole nother story because he's a successful businessman, but I know this dude. I know he was probably, breaking down, going through it. He needed one too. So again, I am, I guess, taking stuff on me. But I don't even got the remains. Furthermore, my uncle, I had hit him up about it, trying to be like, yo, let me just get the remains, because he don't know that I know. Like, bro, this out your this out your skill set. He gonna be tough with me, and man, I could have went on. Pretty much told me, come over here, and the only reason I'm able to chuckle is because I know my grandmother is laughing right now. Come over here, scoop some of your grandmother up, and you can view it like. So I ain't even respond to the text message, bro. And the only reason I'm laughing is because I know my grandmother would laugh to be talking about scoops, right? I'm like, I know this dude that just tell me. So I stopped. I hit my aunt. I have to go through a long talk with her. She's a huge fan of medicine ball. Shout out to you, Danita. I know you listening to this. You're probably tearing up. Me and Mamba will be through tomorrow. But I already knew she ain't want the remains. You feel me? Because again, I'm a perceptive person and I don't be blurting stuff. Like I usually just call it, but like now I was to call it out. But like I had to, long story short, get her to get the remains. And to be honest, in retrospect, she pulled a Lois, because I'm gonna tell you what the acronym means, because her and my mom not getting along. And just the fact of the matter was my brother wasn't that involved these last few years. Why would you go get your mother's remains when you don't really want to, so that your nephew who you do mess with can get it, to give them to people who you technically shouldn't even care about? I talked to her. She was able to go get the remains. I went over the next day. I prayed. We joked. Was able to gather some of my grandmother's remains. And even with that, you guys, and I'm trying to bring this to an end. I said I wanted it to be at the max an hour. I hope it's it's not a story, but just an explanation of what's been going on, and me bringing it all to me coming back. But even with that, I'm still at work. I still am dealing with a relationship in a situation where I feel like the person I'm trying to pursue long term with kind of left me on my face. And it's a steep learning curve for her. We'll talk about that. The people at work, a majority of them were understanding, but a majority of them, I'm going to keep it real, they don't care, bro. They may not text you for one day or something like that, then it's me. And even looking at that, because when something like this happens, a death like this happens, like, and again, I've had the deaths of people I've known very well and been close to. This just hit different. It's like when something like that happens, it makes you look at life and what's important instantly. And I realized that 2021, bringing it back to spirituality and my understanding of how trials are used to build you through seeking God's word and behaving and acting and responding in a way that's acceptable with him. And again, I talk about this in previous episodes, regardless of your belief, I'm just going off of what I've seen happen as fact in my life, right? It's really about love, right? Because back to the people where like they're just, even outside of this, just can't see outside of them. And it's not even the people at work, right? The average person, it is extremely hard for them to see outside of themselves, me included. Jay-Z said it, though. I know I'm guilty of it too, but not like them. But it's hard for people to see outside themselves. But what I also realized in going through this stuff, dealing with the relationships and dealing with the other people, and I mean, it just really, when it rains, it pours. Because let's go back to the music situation. I made 2 beats for this artist. He was like, yo, man, that's fire. That's what's up. I see what you're doing, right? I made like 5 more beats for him. And now, mind you, this is I take all my beats serious, but like I'm almost on a perfectionist tip with this because I know where it's being distributed. I've already been paid a lump sum deposit, so I know it's legit. I'm taking it serious, so I'm not even working on personal beats, any beats for Medicine Ball or nothing, which I need to, but I'm taking it serious. And after I sent him the second set of beats, so I sent him like 12 beats, all fresh, all new, all drawn out and orchestrated. And he was like, bro, because he knew what was going on with my grandmother. He was like, yo, let's reconvene. They pushing the album back anyway. Let's reconvene next year. And long story short, the beats were too dark subconsciously. Like, he was cool with 1 or 2 dark beats, and I realized it was because of my grieving and compartmentalizing. I never got it out. The money made me go ahead and continue to produce, but like, and I know music theory, so it's like certain keys you can play, certain scales you can play to avoid your melodies and whatnot from sounding too dark. And I like know it to the point to where I was staying away from those, and still it was coming out through my music. So I didn't lose it, but that's been pushed back. But that's just another side note. Allow all this going on. People asking me about my birthday. What birthday? What birthday, dude? My birthday was non-existent to me this year. Non-existent. At one point, I was just like, yo, please don't be trying to do whatever y'all do on my grandmother on the week of my birthday, please. Which they did. It just wasn't on my birthday, but it's just like, Lois, loving others instead of self. Loving others instead of self. Whether it be spirituality or just being a righteous, good person, I found that for me, a lot of my motivation and my reasoning for doing things came from a want or a care for somebody outside of myself. Because if I was just worried about myself and my feelings and what I thought was right, I would have reacted completely wrong in a majority of those situations, and it could have fell all apart. I could have easily went off on somebody being disrespectful, but bro, folks would be like, sorry for your loss. I came in late. Why you won't correct it on the same day that you go to your grandmother's viewing? Like straight up. And this is going to be another episode, man, because as far as me being in a corporate or business environment as a black male, my biggest opposition is not who you would think it is or who America will tell you it is. That's another story. But I could have been went off on one of them folks like, man, F you, bro. I just lost my grandma. You talking to me about some gas? You feel me? I could have lost everything. I could have blown some of the business deals I've had. I could have lost it all. But I was always thinking about loving others instead of self. Bro, go gather up and do this extra work to get these remains. Even though your mom is saying she don't want it and being real standoffish about stuff, she want it, bro. She needs it. She needs you to do this. Your brother, he's hurting. Don't ride him about some of the things you feel he could have done more of. No, don't ride him, bro. Even though he's appearing that he's strong, you know him, bro. Even when I deal with people at my job and they're, do some outrageous stuff, instead of getting mad, I'm always able to get over it. And sometimes the people in my work be like, man, you just really are reasonable. I don't understand how you're so patient. How do you get over it so quick? Outside of myself. Getting angry at something somebody says or does, is really very, very vain because you're taking it personal. Like, oh, me. Loving others instead of self. It is nothing other than divine happenings, because through this all, it is hard, you guys. Especially when it's not even for you. It's hard. It's tedious. It doesn't make sense. It's not going to be, and this is the spiritual part, it's not going to make sense. We're in the upside, God talks about this upside down kingdom, and even in management, I just realize it's so much more. The world is kind of trashy because there's too many of us loving ourselves, and furthermore, that's one thing, but not even knowing it is very, very dangerous. And that is one of the biggest things I've learned. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what brought me back to record this. Being completely transparent, it has taken me 3 weeks to record this one episode, deleted, chopped, crying. Even the flyer, which is my grandmother's obituary, I would not have been able to do it. But as you guys be like, yo, what's up with the new season? The inboxes, the followers, the engagements, the emails, the notifications, the Facebook posts, the inboxes. If I would have just depended on me, no telling when I would have started season 4. Loving others instead of self. Just try it. Warning, it's going to suck. You're going to have to swallow a lot of pie, humble pie or crow, eat a lot of crow. You got to take the high road consistently. It's tiresome. I'm in some of the best shape of my life, and for a while, even now, I'm just now, starting to be okay. I was just tired, and I realized, this ain't physical tiredness. Not even mental tiredness. It was spiritual tiredness. And it took a lot for me to get to the point, a lot outside of myself, to be able to get y'all this. Start of season 4, episode 1, dedicated to my grandmother, Lois Fulghum. I miss her. I love her. Love others instead of self, y'all. And that's how we gonna wrap this episode. Yo, I appreciate y'all rocking with me, man. It's been a long time coming. Um, I needed this to kind of get myself back in the groove. You guys, I have committed back to medicine ball. I've been getting smoked. Like I haven't even wanted to look at it. I haven't been in the right mindset. But I realized that there might be someone out there who goes through that, whether it be the anger or the overwhelming or feeling like constant losses or constant obstacles, constant adversity. Man, if it's anything that I have learned, it's taking what this world will call the long way, which is being patient, not going off, still trying to help, still being amicable. That kind of stuff will work out righteously in the end. So, yo, we will use next week's episode to get more into, the minute things. I wanted to do this a little bit more informal. Season 4, episode 1. Again, rest in peace to my grandmother. Go follow me on all social media platforms. Instagram is probably almost up to 8,000 followers. That shout out to you. We got the beats coming. I'm going to get the episodes back going. I need y'all support. I need y'all interaction on all of my social medias, man. I appreciate the love and support. Until next week, welcome back. Y'all stay up. I love y'all. Yeah.